partner in tax and regulatory services in DH Consultants Private Limited. He started his career as an independent practitioner and then joined Suresh Surana, where he worked for more than 16 years. He also worked as a senior manager in transfer pricing in PwC. He possesses more than 2 decades of experience in tax and regulatory advisory. His areas of specialization include advising on FEMA, transfer pricing, international and domestic taxation, inbound and outbound investment, expatriate taxation, tax due diligence, and other IP laws. His areas of specialization are IT and ITS, media and entertainment, gem and jewelry. Thank you, sir, for being here today. I request Mr. Vijayka to offer a small memento as a token of our appreciation.
Good evening, everybody. Today, the subject given to me, borrowing and lending in foreign exchange, foreign currency and rupees, is actually a very, very interesting subject. And practically in everybody's day-to-day practice, we do come across queries from our clients on these issues, both in foreign currency as well as in rupees. And especially now there is a trend of many people settling abroad. Even the other way is also there, that people are coming back to India. So in those cases, they have always a query about what will happen to their existing borrowing or lending. Like as my previous colleague was discussing, that after coming to India, the assets which are lying outside India, you are allowed to continue to keep it. So even if some deposits, etc. are lying abroad, then you are allowed to continue even though you become resident in India. So that way, this subject is very interesting, and I have tried to make it more lucrative and simple in language, so then it's easy to understand. And even if anybody has any issues or queries during my presentation, is free to ask at that time only. No need to wait till it gets over. These are the contents are there of my presentation. Since you all have a hard copy, I will not take time to read this. These are the glossaries I have used in my presentation. Because in fact, if you see in this whole presentation, there are various short forms are used. So that's why I thought of putting these at the beginning only. So then when presentation is going on at that time, people will not struggle to understand what the meaning of that word is there. Statutory framework. What is a statutory framework so far as this regulation is concerned? As now this is I think third day of this session, so you all are aware that earlier there was the era of FERA. Post-FERA, FEMA came since 1999 by FEMA law of 2000. Section 6, subsection 3 of FEMA talks about the capital transaction. In India, still there is no 100% capital account convertibility. Current account convertibility is there under FEMA. But capital account transactions are still restricted transactions, and this borrowing and lending falls under capital account transaction. So that's why subsection 3 or section 6 presently regulate it. There are specifically regulations issued to monitor or regulate this transaction. One is a FEMA on borrowing or lending in foreign exchange, FEMA 3. This is dated 3rd May 2000. Actually, this is the date when FEMA regulation came into force. Similarly, for borrowing and lending in rupee, another regulation is Regulation 4, same dated. Now, these regulations, although referred to of 3rd May 2000, but it continuously evolves, goes on changing by way of various circulars, notifications, and generally RBI the system that on every July of the year, one circular they circulate, which covers all the amendment made during the year. So this is very important that before giving any advice on any FEMA matter, the updated circular is reviewed. Because what's happening that in FEMA, it's little different compared to income tax. Like in income tax, we are quite familiar that if any amendment is made, then against the relevant section, prefix will be there and then you can go down and see that what is the amendment and when it was done. But that is not the situation under FEMA. Under FEMA, if you try to read master circular vis-a-vis regulation, you may sometime found that there are little bit different things are written. The reason being that regulation is not regularly amended, but if you see the master circular, you will find all the updated laws of the land prevailing at that time. So that's why master circular is very important to refer vis-a-vis regulation while providing advice to any clients. First we start with borrowing in foreign currency, because amongst the four sub-area of my presentation, this is the most complicated and most utilized. You can say that practically every second company will have some borrowing in foreign currency. So this regulation is applicable and is very important to understand this well. Under borrowing in foreign currency, I have covered borrowing by an AD. Even AD can borrow. AD is authorized dealer bank. All banks are called as a AD in FEMA language. Borrowing by person other than AD. This is where all our corporate clients etc. will fall. ECB and trade credit, external commercial borrowings, FCEB, FCCB, and what are the compliances required. First we start with borrowing by an AD. Generally authorized dealers are allowed to borrow in foreign currency. What are the circumstances when they are allowed to do? Borrowing from its head office or branch. As everybody of you will be aware that as of now, in India, foreign banks are not permitted to do business of its own. So whatever foreign banks are operating in India, take it Citibank, HSBC, Standard Chartered, these all banks are operating as a branch of the foreign company. So these entities, these branches are allowed to take loan from their head office abroad up to 50% of its unimpaired Tier 1 capital or US $10 million, whichever is higher. So this is what the restriction is kept on the quantum. Overseas branch of an AD. Now exactly other way can be there. Our banks, they have branches outside India. All our big banks, State Bank, Bank of India, Bank of Baroda, have branches all over the world. So they are also allowed to borrow in foreign currency in a normal course of banking business outside India, subject to guidelines of RBI and regulatory authority of the country where the branch is located. So in a different country, whatever regulations are there, subject to that, they are allowed to borrow. In addition to that, authorized dealer can borrow from bank or a financial institution outside India for the purpose of granting pre-shipment or post-shipment credit to its export constitution. So even Indian banks are allowed to borrow from abroad for granting to their customer pre-shipment, post-shipment credit, etc. Now we go to the persons other than AD. Under persons other than AD, the simple transaction which we may come across is a person resident in India can borrow from an overseas bank for following. This generally happens when any Indian entity has some project contract outside India. So when they execute that project contract outside India, they may require some money there. And instead of remitting that from India, company may want to avail facility from outside India. So this is permissible. Since this, whatever entity will be there, project office or branch office, whatever, this is not a separate entity. So far as FEMA is concerned, this entity is a resident entity and that's why this regulation applies. So, if it is for the execution of turnkey project outside India, execution of any civil construction contract, or exports on a deferred credit term, there is some export facilities required in there, then also it is possible. This is subject to terms and conditions stipulated by the authority granting approval for project contract. So from where you got that project, for that whatever terms and conditions are there, that needs to be adhered to, and in accordance with the export of goods and services. Because as I said that this entity is a resident entity. So whatever project it is executing outside India, for that entity is it an export of services. So that's why there is a separate regulation of export of goods and services. Otherwise to that is also required. In addition to that, the another situation arises, which is I can say that the day-to-day situation, that any entity in India importing from outside India, then in that case, whatever credit facility given by the vendor, again that is nothing but indirectly a borrowing, because you are remitting that money after some time. So that also is permissible, but the period around is only 6 months. So for import of goods into India, Indian importer can avail foreign currency credit for a period not exceeding 6 months, extended by overseas supplier. Now this invariably we have seen in practice. People are not aware that this is allowed only for 6 months. And many a time we have seen, and especially when import is there from the group concern, that remittance is not made within 6 months. And even auditors also generally are not familiar with so much about the FEMA regulation, and they do not report contravention. But actually it is a contravention if within 6 months import payment is not made. Then you have to take approval from your authorized dealer. Otherwise, it is considered as a contravention of FEMA. But this being a very common feature, it is never taken seriously by even authorized dealer, because otherwise authorized dealer is always aware. Import comes through authorized dealer. So he is aware, bill of entry is there with him, that this is already overdue, 6 months is passed. But generally, no action is taken, and that's why there are no major consequences on this. But we as a chartered accountant, it's our duty that at least we should report this into notes to account. Borrowing by resident individual from cross relative. Now this is also very common feature. We have some relative who is staying abroad. We are in need of money. He has a surplus fund available. Then he can always lend to us, and we as a resident individual can borrow from him. The condition is that it should not be more than $250,000 US. Maturity period should be 1 year. It cannot be more than that. Loan should be interest free. Now this is what the major hurdle is there. In today's world, nobody wants to give anybody anything interest free unless there is some other consideration is there. So that's why such transactions are not very common. Loan should be received either by way of inward remittance or by debit or NRE or FCNR account of the lender. If that lender has a NRE or FCNR account in India, then from that account he can pay, or it has to come from foreign country, foreign remittance. But if non-resident has a NRO account, then from that account loan cannot be taken. I believe that the difference between NRO, NRE, this whole thing would have been already discussed in the earlier sessions. So NRE, FCA and FCNR account are nothing but a foreign currency account. So it is as good as a foreign currency. So the condition is very clear that money has to, foreign exchange has to come to India, then only it is permissible under this rule.
So what about remittances by non-resident companies from outside India?
Non-resident company giving to?
From outside, borrowings by them from outside.
No, so the borrower is Indian company.
It's a non-resident company.
Borrower is a non-resident company. How borrower can be a non-resident?
Non-resident individual, anything. They want to borrow something from outside India.
Are we talking of NRI? Is NRI staying outside India or?
If he's in India,
Okay.
he wants to borrow.
So, but if he is in India, then first we have to determine what is his status. Why he is in India. If he is in India for taking up employment or carrying on business in India, then automatically his status becomes resident. Only if he is on the visit to India, continues to his employment or business outside India, then only his non-resident status continue under FEMA. Under FEMA and income tax, determining residential status difference is there. Under income tax, we look only on the number of days.
That is fine. Say suppose a foreign company is having a boutique in India.
Okay,
If you want some funds from its head office
okay,
from outside India.
Yeah. So then they are allowed, they can take it. Exactly, it's a reverse the situation which I discussed earlier, that Indian company has got some project or turnkey project outside India. Then if they want to borrow, they can borrow from Indian parent or from any bank outside India. Or the reverse, as I discussed, that foreign bank has a branches in India. So then those branches are allowed to borrow from their head office as well as from a local banking. So it is permissible. Now under ECB and trade credit, these are the,
Sir, you mentioned regarding that the minimum maturity should be 1 year.
yeah,
What happens within less than 1 year? One wants
there is
to
a,
repay?
it is within 1 year, yeah, more than 1 year is not.
So that is maximum.
Sorry. Minimum should be 1 year. So less than 1 year is not allowed. It has to be more than that.
Say one wants to repay within 1 year, that is not permitted.
Not permissible, yeah. Because when you take loan, these are the conditions you have to satisfy.
Some individual has come here before 3 months. Let us assume that he has come on 1st January 2014 in India. So far he was NRI. Now he has come to start the business in India. And he has borrowed some money from his friends of say $100,000 US. And as far as he is concerned, so far he was NRI because he has come here. Now, whether he can borrow the money, suppose today we are looking at that, whether he has made any contravention. He has come here for the settlement here in India to do the business. So 180 days, 182 days, that clause is not been applicable. But his intention here is to start the business. So whether he has contravened the sanctions and rules or not.
No, loan he has taken from whom?
His friends from overseas here.
Outside India.
No, he has brought in money here. He has asked his friends to deposit the money in his account.
So after, no, what I think is own fund. We are talking of loan. So after becoming resident, he is taking loan from a non-resident.
But in a 3 months time, can we establish that he becomes a resident?
Yeah, the moment there is an intention to stay in India for a unspecified period, then you become resident. So then it's a situation of resident borrowing from non-resident.
So part B is applicable.
Yeah, correct.
Excuse me, sir, are there any restrictions in utilization of the loan taken from a relative?
Restrictions, you are talking of a resident.
Taking a loan from a non-resident relative. The two.
So we are talking of this situation.
Yeah. You know, case like
This one?
Yeah.
No, in this there is no restriction. Utilization, there is no restriction, and use is allowed. You can use for anything. See, the major hurdle here is it's a interest free. So only close relative only it's possible. No commercial transaction is possible in such cases. See, generally such transactions are restricted because India do not want foreign currency to come to India in the form of loan, which then there is a restriction to pay back. Because general trend is there that dollar is strengthening, rupee is weakening. So if you have to repay in the foreign currency, then in that case there is a foreign exchange outflow, which is discouraged. In the whole this my presentation, if you see, the message which is coming from the regulatory authority, they do not want India to be burdened by the forex loans, which are to be repaid in a forex law, in a foreign currency, as far as possible, other than for a business transaction. So all regulation, if you see, are drafted that way. Keeping that in mind, at the back of mind of RBI is there that they do not want more foreign currency to come into India in the form of loan. So far as it is coming in the form of equity, we are very happy under FDI regulation. But this regulation is comparatively more, you can say, regulated. Yeah. Now under this, these are the few transactions which are governed under ECB. The first one is a loan from foreign investor group company, loan from overseas bank, buyer's credit, supplier's credit, optionally stroke partly convertible preference share, FCCB and FCEB. So these all one by one I have covered in my presentation. We first start with ECB. As I told you that this is the most important and most complicated regulation of the whole my presentation. In ECB, there are two routes are there. One is the automatic route and another is the approval route. Automatic route means no approval, nothing is required. You can straight away borrow and you have to do some compliance with your authorized dealer. Again, I believe that within these 3 days you people will have understood that now under FEMA, the powers are delegated to authorized dealer. So practically for everything you have to go to authorized dealer. You are not allowed directly go to the RBI unless you have to seek some approval. For that also applications needs to be routed through authorized dealer. So the more and more onus is there on the authorized dealer to ensure KYC of their customer. So even any application goes to the RBI, first authorized dealer is indirectly giving his concurrence by routing application through him. So under automatic route again, no approval, nothing is required, but there are certain compliances needs to be done. And in that the major one is obtaining registration number from the RBI, which as and when it will come we will discuss. Approval route, wherever automatic route is not allowed, you have to go for approval route. Now in FEMA, one very important thing is there, that comparatively size of FEMA Act is somebody says is too small. And if you see income tax that's so large, big. So what's there in FEMA, what's the stand RBI is taking? That unless something is specifically allowed, you have to assume that it is not allowed. You can't take a stand that if something is silent, so that means it is allowed. Time and again, we have experienced that wherever there is an ambiguity, and if somebody has taken advantage of that, where is the restriction? There is no restriction, so I have done. So, but then in practice, RBI's view is there, where it is written that it is allowed. So you have to go by that. Unless specifically allowed, if something is not written, that means you have to come to us through authorized dealer for taking approval. So this compounding, as we are listening that in recent past last 2-3 years, many cases are going to compounding. That's the reason. That under FERA people thought that FEMA is gone, now FERA is there, so it's very liberal and we do the transaction. And then when it is noticed by RBI, then they report it for a compounding. What is not covered under automatic route? Automatic route is not available for what? For on lending. Naturally, they don't want you to do a financing activity of bringing money from abroad and giving loan here. Otherwise, everybody knows that rate prevailing overseas is much lower compared to India. Then people can start business of financing. So which is not allowed. Investment in capital market again, for rating price, this, that, secondary market, it's not allowed. Acquiring company in India, real estate sector. Now you see these are all very sensitive sectors are there. So they have kept restriction on that you can't bring the money from abroad for doing any of such activity. Working capital, general corporate purpose, earlier this used to be allowed, but then later on there are no thin capitalization rules in India, and that's why people have started misusing that. People will all, multinational will start company in India with a capital of 100,000 Indian rupee. That is what minimum, because ROC want. Otherwise even they will keep less than that. And then rest of the all financing will be done through loan. So they wanted to curtail that. So that's why restriction brought that for working capital and general corporate purpose, automatic route is not allowed. Now, recent past about a year back, they have allowed it, but under approval route with certain conditions, which I have covered in my presentation. Repayment of rupee loan, again logic is same, that you can't repay a higher interest rupee loan by bringing money from abroad at a lower rate of interest, because ultimately you have to send back that money outside India. So which is discouraged. And acquisition of land, again it's part of the real estate sector. Over not an eligible borrower. It's not that you and me also can go and ask that I want to borrow from somebody under automatic route. So Indian companies in manufacturing, infrastructure, real industry sector. When this regulation came, nobody understood what is the real industrial sector. First of all, people got confused with real estate. Real estate is something which is restricted, and what is real industrial sector? At least 6 months to 1 year, there was no clarity that who are covered under real industrial sector. And these had really created chaos at that time. Because many software companies, they brought money under this route, and then they were not very clear that whether they fall, because they are not manufacturing, they are not infrastructure, are they real industrial sector? On this clarity was not there. But later on, RBI clarified that those companies which are engaged in a specified services, which are hotel, hospital and software, then these companies are called as a real industrial sector, and so they are allowed to bring ECB under automatic route. Then units in SEZ for own requirement, SEZ cannot transfer our own net ECB fund to sister concern or any units in DTA. Now again, you are SEZ, so you are allowed, so you brought money, and then you should not transfer it to your other company or a DTA, domestic tariff area. Infrastructure finance company except financial intermediary, NBFCs, IFC, AFCs. Now NBFC, etc., there are some regulations are there. It's not that straight away they can bring money from abroad and start lending here. NGOs and MIF, that all conditions I have discussed in the later part of my presentation. NGOs, MIF engage in microfinance activity subject to prescribed criteria, SIDBI. These are the eligible borrowers who are recognized lender. Again, this is mainly to curb that money cannot come from any hanky-panky sources. Otherwise, somebody has some source outside India, and as it is commonly known that people are routing their undisclosed money from abroad. So then in that case, you may say that, oh, in Cayman Island, ABC Company Limited is there, that company has given me loan. So it is a my loan. So that is again not allowed. The lender who are allowed, that also are considered or listed, I can say, international banks, international capital markets, multilateral financial institutions such as IFC, ADB, CDC, regional financial institution, government-owned development financial institution, export credit agency, supplier of equipment, foreign collaborator, and foreign equity holder. Generally, foreign equity holder is something which is very common in our day-to-day practice which we come across. There also some restriction is there. Again, in foreign equity holder, other than erstwhile OCB, OCB used to be one separate entity, overseas corporate body, now it is no longer recognized. So, it cannot be a OCB. The condition is there that if up to $5 million, then the foreign equity holder should be holding minimum 25% share capital in the Indian company. And if it is exceeding 5 million, then over and above 25% share capital condition, the debt equity ratio, ECB equity ratio should be maintained at 4:1. So this is indirectly something to call thin capitalization. Permitted end use. Again, there is a restriction. It's not that you brought money under automatic route and then you use for whatever purpose you want to use. It can be used only for the import of services, technical law, payment of license fee in case of company in manufacturing and infrastructure sector, import of capital goods, new project, any new project if you are establishing, you can use for that. Modernization, expansion of existing production unit in real industrial specified sector. Real industrial I have already explained. Interest during construction period for Indian companies which are in infrastructure sector. Now this is only for infrastructure sector. So for paying your interest, you can use your ECB money. Overseas direct investment in joint venture only on subsidiary. Now this is a very good liberalization is there. That even using a foreign currency, you can use that money to make investment in some other country for your subsidiary or a joint venture. And acquisition of shares in the disinvestment process. When there is some disinvestment process of the government is going on, or PSU, etc., you can utilize money for that. Now we come to the, for a specific entities, like for example NBC, NBFCs or IFC, for all lending to infrastructure sector. So as earlier I said, And it's not that they can bring money and start lending business with